Welcome to Conversations in the Coop. I'm your host, Trinity Director of Athletics, Drew Galbraith. It's my pleasure to be joined today by one of the captains of Trinity's women's squash team, Nouran Youssef. Nouran, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Well, it's an exciting day at Trinity because just over the weekend, Trinity women's squash defeated Harvard 6-3, and you were a big part of that. But before we get to talk about this season, we're going to talk a little bit about what got you here to Trinity and about your Trinity career. So, growing up in a household in Alexandria, did you always know that sport was going to be a big part of your life?
So I come from a very athletic family. My dad was on the national team. My brother's on the national team, and I think growing up, I obviously knew I was gonna get into like sports, and I started squash when I was 6 years old, and I think it was the best decision I've made. I tried getting into soccer a little bit just because it's a very soccer-oriented family. I'm the only one who plays squash, but since I started playing, I think it runs in the genes. I think I just found myself in it, and I've loved it so far. So yeah.
So, what are your kind of earliest memories of maybe your father in sport? Was he still playing? Do you have like a consciousness of that, or had he just retired when you were starting to be conscious?
So yeah, I have never actually seen him play like live with the national team, but even since I was born, he'd always like play soccer like probably three times a week with his friends, and then we would all go and watch. And I grew up watching my brother play as well, and it was just we're a very also competitive family like when it comes to sports. So my brothers, they take it very seriously, and I think this is what helped me like get into squash and take it the way that I do right now.
Is it maybe a little easier? So, four brothers, is that right?
Yeah, so I'm the only girl on with four brothers.
And all of them play soccer?
All of them play soccer.
So, was there maybe squash could be your own thing? Is there maybe a little bit subconsciously?
Yes, I mean I would have loved to play soccer, but I don't think it was a very good idea. I when I went to high school, actually I went and I tried on for the varsity soccer team just because I really love to play soccer, and I did get on it. My dad was not happy with that decision just because it's like he knew that like squash is my sport, and like he didn't want anything to interfere with that. But it actually did interfere because before the U.S. Open I got a concussion getting into it. Was gonna be my first goal actually, but I never made it, and it was my last time on the field. But yeah, having squash as my own thing definitely is great, and my family loves it. They're very supportive. They come to all my matches when they can, obviously when I was in Egypt. And
So, as you're coming up in Egypt, and obviously squash is a very prominent sport, so how did you kind of make that transition from playing at a local club to now playing more and more significant matches and getting towards that national stage in Egypt?
So I actually moved here when I was 13 years old. So I moved here because I started playing internationally when I was, I would say, 10.
Mm-hmm.
I started traveling, so I went to Hong Kong, Germany, the US Open, the British Open, and all those tournaments, you had to be ranked locally and nationally to be, because they would take like the top four. So I would go with the national team, and when I was playing the US Open under 13, I was playing the final, and I won that one. So I won that title, and I remember few coaches came and reached out to me about coming to study like high school in the US. And at the moment I was like, there's no way my dad is gonna let me do that. Like I'm the only girl, I'm kind of like the princess of the house.
Right.
They would never let me go. But it was a very tough time in Egypt, like when it comes to, it was like the revolution was going on, and it wasn't like the best environment there. And actually my dad was the one who was like, Nouran, like what do you think about this? Like I think when it comes to your career and moving forward, I think it would be a great opportunity to get an education in the US. And I reached back to the coach, and everything went smoothly with the application, and I just a few months later I found myself in New York in boarding school, and it's been a great experience ever since.
So, how was that adjustment? Because a lot of students come on our squash teams even come from different countries to college, but you're 17, 18, 19, 20.
Mm-hmm.
You're 13, 14 years old. You're
Yeah.
starting high school, far away from family. How was that adjustment for you?
It was very tough at the beginning. Also, my English was very limited. I couldn't really speak a lot of English, and I remember going into my first lecture. It was a history class, and my professor spoke very fast. That like I was like, oh my god, I was so overwhelmed, and I was like, I'm not gonna be able to make it. I don't even understand what's going on in the lecture, and it took me a while to be able to like adjust, and I had to do the extra work. I had to like get a tutor and like have to meet with all my professors after class to be able to pick up on what's going on. And at the beginning, I was obviously very young, and I would get homesick pretty quickly. But I was always on the phone with my parents. I mean, until now, if you ever see me walking around campus, you'll always see me FaceTiming my family. And I think they helped me they helped me a lot by just reminding me that I'm doing this for myself and it's gonna pay off at the end. And just knowing that I'm here for my career just helped me like overcome this homesickness. And I also used to go back like every break. So Thanksgiving, in high school, Thanksgiving break was a lot longer. So I'll go back in Thanksgiving. I'll go back in winter and spring break. Like all the breaks that I would go, I would be able to go back home and see my family. So it helped a lot.
So as you're going through school at the master's school, you kind of know college squash is a potential destination.
Yeah.
Talk about your recruiting process, because when it started, you weren't.
Yeah.
Trinity wasn't on the radar.
Yeah, it was a great, like I mean it was great because I ended up at Trinity, but it was a process. So when I was junior year, so our recruiting process starts junior year. So by my junior year, I was nationally ranked #1 in the U.S. and I was getting all those emails and all those invites from Ivy Leagues. So I actually, that's funny, but I went and visited Harvard and Princeton, Penn and Yale. Those were my top 4. I went to my visits, and I ended up loving Princeton a lot, just because also my uncle lives like a few minutes away from Princeton, and my brother would come and work with my uncle in the summer. So I was like, oh, it'd be a great opportunity if I'm close to them, because I love just being around family. And my best friend went there as well, so I just loved my visit so much, and everything went smoothly. And I talked to the Princeton coach, and I told her that Princeton is my first choice. And it was kind of a shock, because everybody's like, oh, Nouran's gonna go to Harvard, just because Harvard, like in Egypt, everybody's like so obsessed with Harvard. But I did love Princeton more, and I told the coach that Princeton is my first choice. She was so happy, and she told me that I'm her first choice, and I should send her my transcript and like my SAT scores, and she's gonna go and talk to admissions. And so every Ivy League school, they have 3 spots for each year. So for my year, it was me and other 2 girls, and she sent in my transcript for admissions. And it's either you get a red light, yellow light, or green light. If you get a red light, that means admissions is telling you, don't keep recruiting this player, she's not gonna get in, like her grades are not good. And if you get a yellow light, that means, okay, like maybe it's a 50-50%, she needs to get her grades up or work on something. And then if you get a green light, that means give her a spot, she's gonna get in once she applies, and everything should be fine. So she calls me when I'm home, and she's like, okay, like Nouran, congratulations, you got a green light from admissions, you're definitely coming to Princeton, I'm so happy that you're going to be joining my team. And to be fair, for the other schools, I want you to let them know that you got a spot at Princeton, and you're going to be joining the class of 2024. So I was so happy. And the next thing I did was email all the coaches that I went to visit, obviously thanking them for the visit and just letting them know that I'm going to be going to Princeton. And everybody congratulated me, and they moved on to give their spots to other players. And it was so that was my junior year, so everybody knew I was going to Princeton. And then senior year comes in, and it's obviously we get our decision like through early decision. So I'm waiting, and I just submitted everything, and I'm waiting to hear back. And the day before it was the official decision to get the letter, she calls me and she tells me, oh, Nouran, could you send me your sizes for like just clothes in general, and like your shoe sizes, because we're ordering the uniform for the team. And I'm like, of course. So I sent her that, so nothing is going on in my head. And then the next thing is the day of the decision comes by, and I don't hear back, and I'm like, oh, that is weird, but nothing is going on, because I'm like, I'm fine. So I called her, and I'm like, coach, like I didn't hear back, but I don't know what's going on. She's like, it's fine, it's probably maybe because your last name is with a Y, because Nouran Youssef, maybe it's coming later. The other 2 girls got it, so Catherine, they were like they were close friends to me, so they called me and they're like, Nouran, did you get it? And I'm like, oh, not yet, but hopefully. So 3 days later, I hear nothing, and then she calls me, and then she's like sobbing on the phone, like she's crying. And I'm like, oh my god, what is going on? But like nothing is going on in my head that it's
Right.
about me. I'm like, there's something going on, I don't know what it is. Like, coach, are you okay? And then she's like, yeah, Nouran, I don't know what to tell you, but you didn't get in. And I was like, what do you mean I didn't get in? Like, I thought I did get in. And she's like, it's never happened before that admission says yes and then they say no. I don't know what happened in the process. I apologize, but I'm not gonna let this go. Like there are a lot of options we could we could use. You could take a gap year, or you could do a year in another school and transfer. You're my first choice. You're gonna come and play for Princeton. Like, I don't know what happened. And she's crying. And then I don't know. I just had a mental breakdown, and I feel so bad for doing this, but I hung up, and I was like, oh, like, I just need my space. And I called my parents, and at the moment I just felt like my whole world was like, I was like I came here for nothing. Like, I've been working so hard in high school with squash and like my academics. I had really good grades, and now I'm left with nothing because I listened to her. And I mean, she didn't just ruin my chances to get into Princeton, but she also ruined my chances to get into all the other schools, because I had to email them saying that, give my spot away to other players. And so I took a medical leave from school, and then I went back home to Egypt. And there I was like, no, I'm not just gonna give up on my dream of getting into very good other good schools as well. And this is when Coach Wendy reached out to me, and other schools as well, and I came and visited Trinity, and I just loved it, and I loved how diverse the team was, and really had a good visit here. And I think it was just meant to be a Bentham.
So when you're going through that process and probably questioning a lot of things, questioning the process and everything else, when you came and visited Trinity, do you remember some of the women who were here hosting you on your visit?
Yeah, I do. So Habiba Magdi, she's from Egypt. I was actually staying with her. Amina Tahir, she was my captain my sophomore year. And Salma, she was also from Egypt. I remember her. And then Akan Shah, I remember most of the, I could go on, but I remember most of them. I think they were a huge part of making my decision to come to Trinity.
And so then, how are your parents? Did your parents have any kind of maybe doubts about you coming back to the U.S. for college at that point, or was it really more about you finding your own path and they trusted you?
Yeah, I think so. I'm very lucky to have very supportive parents. They were just, once I called them and I said I want to go back home, they booked the first flight and they got me back home. And once I told them that I want to give it another shot and like go visit Trinity and see where like life takes me, they still made sure that I got that opportunity. I traveled back and I went to visit. So they've supported me throughout all my decisions.
So shortly after that, then the world shuts down with COVID.
Yeah.
And so were you in New York for COVID when COVID started? How did you get home? Did you get home?
Yeah. So I don't know. It was very weird because my dad kind of sensed it in a way. Like, obviously we knew that something was going around. But I was in high school still, and it was before spring break. So my dad just told me, like, I think it would be a good idea to just get you back because I'm scared this is gonna be like a whole thing, and then you're not gonna be able to fly back. And it was. He was right. So a week before like the shutdown, I was able to get home. And once I got home, a few days later, they shut down the air. Like, there were no flights. No one was coming. Like no one was able to go back and forth from their countries. So I was back home once it started.
And so I'm assuming you graduated from master's virtually.
Yeah, I did.
And then
I did.
And then we're able to come to Trinity that fall. Now, as a STEM major, I'd imagine that was particularly, in addition to all the difficulties of you're kind of meeting your fellow teammates, your classmates with masks. You're in science and technology. How was that your first year? It must have been a bit of a challenge.
It was very challenging at the beginning, especially I'm a very I don't know, like an old-fashioned person. Like, I still take notes with my pen and paper. This is how I function. And especially with physics, I was my first year, so I knew I was gonna get into engineering. And my first year I was taking all those calc classes and physics classes, and I just needed to be in class. Like, I needed to see the professor actually like doing the problems in front of me, and it was very hard to be able to like focus over Zoom. Especially a lot of it are like circuits and like things that like I need to be in class for. So it was very challenging, but I was able to just, I don't know, stay positive and think, okay, hopefully it's something temporary, and I would just also do the extra work when it comes to like watching videos and
Sure.
learning online. I had also had a tutor back home to help me.
Mhm.
So it went by smoothly, but it was definitely something that I had to overcome because it was hard.
And just getting so then you got to transition into now being part of this team. So as you
Yeah.
headed into your second year, what were your nerves like going into second year playing real matches against the Ivies that had recruited you and
Yeah.
with the Trinity on your chest?
Oh, that was I remember coming here and I remember just looking to the match when we were gonna be playing Princeton.
Mhm.
I was like, I need revenge. So I came when I came back. I obviously it was the transition was actually pretty smooth because we're a very diverse team and all of us we come from all around the world. So it was very smooth just getting into like knowing my teammates and everybody was able to relate to each other. Love like it's a very healthy environment. I love it. And then we were able to just pick it up and practice right away and get into the matches. At the beginning I was a little bit nervous. It was still my first year, but I also think I had that like little bit of I don't know, I was a little bit more comfortable than a lot of my teammates just because I also played high school squash and I just knew a little bit how it worked. So just going into the matches, I was just so focused on the Princeton match, and we played them the first year home, and all my friends came and I talked to my teammates. I was like, you guys are gonna do this for me, like you're gonna win this for me, and we ended up winning them.
Yeah.
We beat them. I think it was like 7-2 probably. It was a very good win and it was perfect.
So as you kind of go further in with squash, last year obviously team has a big win in season over Harvard, and then loses in the national championship match. Which talk about how that motivated you and the rest of the team getting ready for this year and as you headed into this season.
Yeah, I think that was definitely like a learning, like it made us learn a lot last year because it just felt like they stole like the title from us. We beat them in the league matches 7-2 at their home courts. It was a great win, but then I think what happened was we just I remember once we beat them in the league matches, we came back and it was like we made a whole celebration. We had a whole big party with the men's team, and then I think at that moment we thought we were done. Like we thought we've done it, and we got a little bit cocky. I even remember we beat Harvard 7-2, but then in 2 weeks we were playing Princeton and we got into 5-4 with them.
Yeah.
And I think this is what when we played them, they did not. Once they lost, it was a wake-up call for them, and they kept on working and working and working and looking at playing us again at nationals, and they ended up beating us 5-4, and it was very heartbreaking. But I think so. I was captain last year, but so I think I learned from this, and when we beat them yesterday. I remember a few of my teammates came and we were like, "Oh, we should celebrate." And then I had like me and my co-captain, we had a talk with the team and just reminded them that this is the deja vu of what happened last year, and we're not gonna celebrate until we're done. We're gonna celebrate when we win at nationals. Great, like obviously be proud of yourself, and it's a great win. But we're gonna get tomorrow's off, take a break, and then we're gonna resume practice on Tuesday, and we're playing Cornell Columbia this weekend. Like it's just the beginning, it's not the end. So I think we've learned from not our mistake, but we've learned from last year, and I think we've got it this year. I think we'll win.
And today also starts classes,
Yeah.
and I know how seriously you take your schoolwork. So talk a little bit about what Trinity's provided you academically. I know you're majoring in computer engineering, also minoring in math. Those are not easy majors, but just talk about how you've taken advantage of that experience as well.
So I came here knowing I want to do computer engineering, and I mean I love it, but I also thought I just declared my minor last semester just because I wanted to also have the math skills as well. So taking that minor has helped a lot in my resume and applying for jobs, and I also was able to. So I'm right now. So I'm minoring in math, majoring in computer engineering, and I'm doing part-time. So I'm interning at an insurance company as a data engineer. And I think a lot of the things that has gotten me that internship was through what I've learned at Trinity. Like a lot of the coding skills that I've learned, the mathematical skills, and just not. I think Trinity doesn't just provide that on paper. Like I think it's also what we learn from like just communication, and I think that also comes from being on a team and with squash. So I think it has helped me tremendously, and I'm very grateful. And it's been very like time consuming, obviously, but it pays off at the end, and I'm very happy.
Well, Nouran, we're super excited to see what the team does the rest of the way, and we'll certainly be rooting for you in Philadelphia in a few weeks.
Thank you so much.
That'll do it for this conversation in the Coop. For all the latest news, scores, and schedules, go to bantamsports.com. Follow us on social @Bantam Sports. Until next time.